See, this is why I don't run the Fat Duck, because I would be giving out T-shirts saying I'm a fat duck, which is not quite congruent.
Is that congruent?
It's not really. It's not the brand that I think Heston's trying to create.
If it's a Blackpool one, then maybe that's a good thing to do.
Hey everybody, it's John Hamilton here, alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We're here for another episode of the Big Idea Podcast, where, as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without working harder. So, without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Here we are. Hello everybody, welcome to this month's edition.
This month's edition of the Big Idea Podcast. This is, I think, episode 33.
Yeah.
We are coming up for the year anniversary of the launch, when it used to be a weekly podcast. And yeah, 33 episodes in. Christmas is coming. The goose is getting fat. And I'm going to leave that there.
Okay.
Cool. So, what are we going to talk about this month? We've got lots to go through.
We've got the book of the month.
We got the book of the month. Have you read the book of the month?
Hands up right now. Oh. I didn't like it, so I stopped.
How far into it did you get?
Page 1. No, not page 1. Not very far, to be fair. I didn't.
Prologue?
Yeah, maybe. It was just,
copyright page?
It might be just a blurb on the back, to be honest. It just didn't sound like my thing, to be honest. That's it. So, although I have read some. I've read next month's, almost finished next month's book.
That's great. You will have forgotten.
I will have forgotten it by the time we come around. Yeah. But that's good.
So
ahead of ourselves, but not quite there.
So
but you got lots out of it, didn't you?
Last month's book was... right, here we go. I should write this down. Really. Money, Know More, Make More, Give More by Rob Moore. All about the Moors. And this was a bit of a mammoth book. It was 16 hours on Audible. I enjoyed it. I know you said you didn't like it, and several people I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks. Well, it's been polarising. It really has been polarising. I've either heard lots of people say, yeah, didn't really get into that, didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, or, oh, I absolutely love it. One of the guys, one of our 1%ers said, look, I love this book. This is the book I needed. Another guy said to me, oh, I'm reading it for the third time. Now, I honestly cannot get over that. 3 times. It's 16 hours long. And he's already reading it for the third time. I'm familiar with Rob's work already, so I've heard a lot of the stories that he talks about in there. If he talks about post-it notes one more time, I am gonna go mental, because he honestly...
There's an app for that.
Well, he's got a podcast which he must talk about the post-it note every other podcast, and it's in every one of his books, and he must mention it about 5 times in this book. So, Rob, if you are listening, please stop using 3M and post-it notes as an example, because I'm fed up of hearing it. But yeah, love Rob's work. Heard a lot of his stories before. The main thing that I think that I took from the book was that capitalism is good. The capitalist economy is good for the economy and for the country in general. Which, is, some people say that's counterintuitive. Why would the rich make all the money and all the poor? We should take the rich's money and give it to the poor. We should all be Robin Hood. And the argument that Rob makes and the example that he gives in there is, well, actually, giving money to poor people makes no difference, because they will then spend that money unwisely, and which is why they are in the situation they are, and they will give it back to the wealthy in the form of, if you gave them a lottery win, they give it back to the wealthy in terms of yachts and helicopters and more lottery tickets. So he said there's a flow of money, and the idea behind capitalism is that money flows, and the faster money flows, the better that benefits anyone. So you don't want to be hoarding money. You want to be earning money and spending money. The more money that you earn, Jason, the more you can then spend, which then boosts your local economy, which means that then people in your local economy have more money to spend. So by creating wealth for yourself and for your family, you also create jobs. You also pay a lot of tax. That pays for teachers and nurses and doctors. you help grow your local economy, and the more money you've got to spend, and if you spend that money locally, you can then help those business owners to create more wealth, to make more money for their family, to then spend more money themselves in the local economy. We live in an area which likes to talk itself down as, there's no money here, it's not an affluent area. Well, it would be if we actually stopped sending that money away to faceless corporations. If we actually spent that money within the local economy, there is more than enough money in the southwest here to actually stimulate a fantastic local economy. I was in city centre the other day, and I was just overhearing people talking. And this couple were walking up through town. They said, "Oh, want to grab a coffee?" And they said, "Oh, there's a coffee shop just there," which was an independent, locally owned coffee shop. "Or we could go to Starbucks." "Oh yeah, let's go to Starbucks." Now in that decision, let's say they spent 10 quid in there. That £10 could have gone to a local business, which would then, their profits would have been, £6-7 higher than they were otherwise would have been, which they could have then kept within the local economy, they could have then spent. Instead, that went to Starbucks. Not saying anything about tax dodging or anything like that, but where does that profit go? If Starbucks make an extra 10 quid profit, where does that money go? It goes to shareholders. It goes to faceless corporations. It doesn't go to the economy. It certainly doesn't go to the local economy. Basically, it is make more, spend more. Capitalism is good. That was my key takeaway. And I think if you've got any kind of money hang-ups or a psychological block around money, then I think...
What do you mean by that?
Well, you think you don't deserve it. That's I think the key thing, or that, well, I'll never be rich. Money doesn't grow on trees. All this stuff that's kind of inbuilt from a lot of people from a very young age, whereby they're just, it's drummed into them by their parents that actually, there isn't an infinite pool of money, which I'm just chuckling because that was like our Prime Minister that said that this year. Was it? No, there isn't a magic
money tree.
Magic money tree, that was it.
Magic money trees, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is, you just got to plant the right seeds. But they're not magic. Yeah, quite right. So yeah, that was last month's book of the month. Okay. Next month's is They Ask You Answer. Marcus Sheridan. We've talked about that within our private groups already.
It's great.
It's a fantastic book.
I'm enjoying it. It's great.
I've read it once. I'm going to be reading it again because we're going to be implementing a lot of the strategies here. This is the last couple of books we've done have been kind of biographies and kind of overview of business. This is tactical. This is it's a tactic that I actually dismissed originally and said, no, this is far too simple. I already know all this. But it's that famous saying that what you learn after you know everything, that's the crucial thing. And I think with Marcus Sheridan's book, They Ask You Answer, we are going to be radically changing a lot of what we do in our businesses. And I know we've already spoken to one or two of our 1% Club clients who have already implemented strategies from this and are absolutely killing it. We'll give you an example later on in the podcast as well. But yeah, it's a fantastic book. It was recommended to me by someone in my mastermind group probably 5 months ago. And yeah, I just dismissed it and said, no, can't do that. It's far too simple for me. I already know all that. Having read the book, absolutely loved it. So that is our book for next month.
Excellent.
So we are recording this the Monday after Black Friday, or Cyber Monday, as it's
Cyber Monday, as they like to call it,
traditionally known. Now, this isn't going to be a rant about when did Black Friday become a thing. It's an American rah rah rah. But when did Black Friday become like a 3-week event?
Well, same as like when Christmas became a 6-month event.
What, when like lazy marketers got involved and said, look, I know we need to do like a flash sale, like a 24-hour thing. Yeah, like Black Friday, brilliant, cool. Can we extend that to like 3.5 weeks? No, defeats the purpose. Completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So one of our 1% Club members, John, did a fantastic Black Friday offer last week, didn't he? We talked a lot about it in Big Ideas for Small Businesses, and we talk about it often in the podcast about not just discounting, not just blindly giving away money, which is what I saw so many people doing last week. You know, I personally bought some stuff on Black Friday, stuff that I was going to buy anyway, that I managed to get 30-40% cheaper. Fantastic. There was no benefit to the company that I purchased from whatsoever, other than they will look at their stats and they will say, oh, on Black Friday we sold X amount of stock. That's brilliant. Black Friday's worked for us. Fact of the matter is, I would have bought it. All right, I may not have bought it on Black Friday. I may have bought it today. I may have bought it on Wednesday. But I was going to buy it, and I was going to buy it certainly this month.
But they captured your pounds.
They did. And
it didn't go to a competitor.
Yeah, but it was never going to go to a competitor, because all they did was take what they normally sell and slash the price of it. So what's the point in that? See, what John did was he took what he normally sells and he didn't discount it. But what he also did was said, well, actually, people who buy this product, sometimes they like this product and this product too. So he bundled these products together and said, actually, right, I'm not going to give you a 40% discount on my main product, but if you pay full price for that product, I will bundle in an extra 150 quid's worth of goodies for free.
I don't know that one.
Which is fantastic, because it doesn't cost, maybe 150 quid's worth of goodies, but it doesn't cost him that. His margin on that is such that actually, what's that, probably cost him 70, 80 quid to get a £500 sale. So he's not discounting it by 40%. He's just adding value to that. And he was very strict about it. This is a one-day sale. It's not a Black Friday sale that starts at the end of September and runs until February the 19th. It was a 24-hour sale. He did lots of follow-up. Don't know if we've ever mentioned the fact that you should do lots and lots of follow-up till they buy or till they die. And I just think he did a fantastic job of it, and his staff absolutely loved what he did. And we talked just now about Marcus Sheridan's book, They Ask You Answer. John also implemented some of the strategies from this book, specifically creating product videos around, okay, what sort of questions are people going to have about this product? Well, I'm going to answer that in a video. So he found that, I can't remember the exact numbers now, but whereas, say, 70% of people who normally purchase this product want to phone the company up and say, got a few questions about this, it was less than 30% or something like that. He absolutely eliminated, even though, he sold 25 times the usual amount he would on that day, the company had less phone calls than normal. Or certainly less phone calls than they would expect on a Black Friday. I think he said last year he was up till 10 p.m, literally on the phone to customers, sorting out orders, everything like that. I think he said he knocked off at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
For ice cream or something, didn't he?
Went and got fish and chips and went and spent some time with his family. And apparently his son said to him, "What are you doing here? Isn't it Black Friday?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, everything's sorted. Look at the phone. The orders are coming in. Brilliant. Everyone's happy. And it was just this combination of the content marketing strategy from They Ask You Answer, combined with a really, really good offer, which is not just discounting. It's not just blindly, I'm going to knock some money off what I do already. We did it with our own business, so we don't. We've got the sports betting business, for example. We've got our monthly membership packages. So we could have just done what everyone else did and said, right, we're going to knock 40% off the price of that. Happy days. Instead, we said, well, I'll tell you what, you can have the equivalent of 40% off, but you're going to pay for a year up front. Now, we don't normally sell annual packages because we want the high margin of people paying the full amount, full price every month. We'd much rather have that. But for some people, they'd rather pay up front. And that gives us, every November or beginning of December, it gives us a nice cash boost. That we get a nice bit of cash in the bank. Cash flow's good, which means we can then reinvest that in better processes, in more lead gen, in more marketing, to basically sell stuff over Christmas. But I think there's so many people who don't put enough thought into Black Friday. They see Argos doing it, they see Sainsbury's doing it, and they think, oh, I know, all I got to do is on that Friday, I just cut my prices and I'll get a shed load of sales.
Yeah.
And it will happen to an extent because people are now, you know, the general public are very aware of Black Friday. But to me, it's lazy marketing. And I'm a lazy marketer. I absolutely am. No qualms about that. But just, you know, pricing is not your only weapon. I'm constantly saying this. You know, so many people.
It's just a race to the bottom, isn't it? He's going to charge the least for the products, and then actually you've got no margin, and then you can't pay your bills anyway because there isn't any margin. Yeah, it's just a race to the bottom, and
And one of the key things I said to John about this, because obviously he was blown away by the results he's had this year. I think he said it's his best 48 hours in business ever. Mm-hmm. So I said, that's great, fantastic, well done, mate. Now, when are you going to repeat that? Because it's very easy to say, well, that's cool, we'll do it next year. We'll do it, you know, last Friday in November next year, that's when I'm going to repeat it. But why couldn't you repeat that in May? Why couldn't you say, right, 6 months from now, everything we've just done for this really, really successful Black Friday campaign, we're going to do, it's going to be May Madness. Mm-hmm. We've got the 24-hour flash sale. It's just like Black Friday. All right, you haven't got the national public awareness that you got with Black Friday, but nor have you got everyone else doing it on the same day. You've got no competition for it. You've got all the assets there. You've got all the systems and processes up. You've got all the copy written. You've got all the videos recorded. You've got an asset there that John can now just dust off. Mm-hmm. Comes to May and he goes, dust off all the assets and just repeat that campaign again. And before you know it, he has the best 48 hours he's ever had in May since he started business.
Yeah, I guess if you've got a selection of products or you've got a selection of services, you can do the same thing, but for a different product or a different service, whatever you kind of want to move along. Whenever you want to repeat that thing, really, isn't it? Yeah. And you can build on that. And as you say, throughout the year, you're gathering assets that you can reduce and reuse every year.
Absolutely.
Becoming a lazy marketer. A little bit of work at the front.
Yeah, you too can be a lazy marketer. So I went to the Fat Duck last month.
You did?
I did. I'm now a fat ducker.
You are. Can't argue with that.
And I think I mentioned it in last month's podcast. I was so looking forward to going there. Just for the experience, really, rather than, it wasn't about the food. But I came away from there absolutely blown away. Mm-hmm. It was an experience. It was food theatre. And I think there's one thing I would love for everyone listening to kind of take from the Fat Duck and put into their business. It is their attention to detail. Because for those who don't know, it's Heston Blumenthal's, I think it's 2 Michelin star restaurant. Mm-hmm. It is a tiny little restaurant. I think there's room for about 40 diners, 2 sittings a day, lunch, evening meal. That's it. And Heston is known for his experimental mindset, shall we say?
Flamboyance.
Well, his the restaurant has its own coat of arms, mm-hmm. and at the bottom of it, it's got a motto which is "Challenge everything or question everything." I think it's challenge everything, and it is just very experimental. We had some dishes where I'll be honest with you, I did not have a clue what I was eating. Because but your senses tell you something completely different. So for example, I do not want to give away too many spoilers because the menu it's a 16-course menu, and it's kind of they are serving today roughly the same 16 courses that they were serving when I was there a couple of weeks ago. If you go in 6 months' time, it will pretty much be the same menu. There are lots of quirks and lots of personalizations to it, but I don't want to give away any or too many of the little surprises that are in store for you. Mm-hmm. I've forgotten where I was going with that little tangent. No, I went off down that blind alley, and I'm stuck
It's
down
the
in
experience.
there. Yes, it was very much the experience of not knowing what I was eating. That's where I was going with it. So, for example, I'm eating an ice cream. So, what would the traditional experiences that you would have eating an ice cream? How would you describe? Martians land on this planet, and you say to them, "Do you fancy going off for an ice cream?" They say, "What's an ice cream?" So, how would you describe an ice cream?
Cold, creamy dairy product.
Yeah. So, kind of a nice
in a cone.
Yeah, nice. Kind of, it's quite sweet. Yeah. No, not if you go to Heston's. It's savoury. So, for example, we had a crab flavoured 99. It was in a cone. It looked just like an ice cream, but it was crab flavoured. There was a. Do you remember the Twisters, the ice lolly?
Yeah,
looked just like that. But it was. So the inside was salmon, and the green and the white things were horseradish and avocado.
Was it ice cream?
It was cold.
Right.
And it was kind of mousse-like.
Okay.
So it was not quite frozen. And then the one that was frozen was my rocket ice lolly. Do you remember the little rockets you used to have as a kid? So I had one of those. But it was Waldorf salad flavoured ice lolly. And
what was in that then?
I don't know. It had the three colours. So you tasted... like
I was going for a John Cleese moment. You spoiled it. Don't worry. Move on.
Okay. We haven't got any... Oh, dear. So you had all different flavours. So you had beetroot, and you had celery, and you had rocket, and I don't know, something else. But the attention to detail was the key thing. So yes, all right, you plays with your senses. You don't know what you're eating. So I'm eating this rocket ice lolly, and I get to the very end of it. I just have that last little bit on the stick, and I look down, and there's something written on the stick.
Knock, knock.
And that's what I was expecting. I was expecting a joke, because you remember when you were a kid, and you had your lollipop, and you finished your lollipop, and there was always a joke on the stick. Oh, brilliant, they put a joke on the stick. How great is that? So I'm holding this stick in my hand, and I said to Sarah, "Have you got a joke on your stick?" And she went, "No, nothing on mine." So, oh, that's weird. Why am I the only one that's got a joke on my stick? So I looked down, and it's not a joke. What they'd actually printed on my lollipop stick was a quote from my book. So they'd gone to the trouble, knowing I was going there, of finding out a bit about me, doing a bit of online stalking. Oh, he's written a book. Okay. Let's have a look on Amazon. Oh, let's get a quote from that book. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to get that printed up on a lollipop stick, which we're then going to craft that only on that one stick and only for him. And we're going to print that up on the lollipop stick. We're going to create the thing around. We're not even going to mention it at all. We're going to stick it in the sand that it's presented to. We're going to make sure that it's presented to him, and we're not even going to mention it ever again. But on this lollipop stick was a quote from my book. It's like, that is the attention to detail. So many, we sat there throughout the day just marvelling at all the little details. So things like, I was there with Sarah, so there was two of us at the table. Every single dish, both of the plates or the boards or whatever they were presented on, both arrived and hit the table at exactly the same time. There was none of this, there's yours, mate, and there's yours. It was just literally, we'd have two servers, and they would literally coordinate, boom, both at the same time. Both of those dishes were taken away. They left the table at exactly the same time. And it was just such amazing to see the choreography that was going on there between all the staff. Our storyteller, they're not called waiters, they're called storytellers, because they're there to tell a story, would come along and, be starting to lay out some of the presentations for the next courses or anything like that. And if he was starting to talk to us and he just got engaged with us, instantly, like within 5 seconds, another member of staff would come over and immediately take his job away from him and say, right, you were putting the cloves down on there, or you were clearing the cutlery for that. As soon as he starts talking to us, I don't know if he eyeballs someone or someone's just watching out for this happening, but literally the minute he starts talking to us and he's just engaging with us, that is his most important task. And all of a sudden, clearing the cutlery away, someone appears from nowhere and just takes that job away from him. So the lights, each table has its own individual light. And as you go through the day, because literally we were there 5 hours having these 16 courses, the lights change. Now nobody notices this until I was looking at a different table, was thinking, why have they got a pink light on their table? And then I looked around, actually their light is slightly different. And then there's another person who was on like their, say, 14th course, so they were getting towards the end of their day. And I was like, oh, the sun's setting on their table. And it's literally, nobody noticed this, but that doesn't matter because somebody's going to notice. And it's just playing with the senses. We were, it's all theatre. There's lots of nitrous oxide, there's floating things, and everything is just presented in a very, very theatrical way. So we were wondering at one point, so the chairs they were kind of like stools, but they turned, they swiveled, and they were very comfortable. And that was our main concern, was that they were comfortable. And we kept saying, I wonder why they turn. And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 hours into the meal that we realised why they turn. And it's because you're constantly going, oh my God, what's going on that table over there? Oh my God, look at that. Because there's so much going on around you, and they want to encourage you to look at the other diners. They don't want you going, oh, what's that? Let me turn in my chair, because that isn't comfortable to do that. They want you to be able to naturally turn 180 degrees anywhere in the restaurant, 360 if you wanted to, but I don't think they allow you to actually spin in your chair, to see what's going on. They actively, one of the first things we said to our storyteller was, do you mind if we take a photo? Because the very, very first course, they wheel out this bubbling concoction of nitrous oxide, and he's basically he said, I'm going to make you a cocktail. So they spray some mousse on the thing, chucks it in the nitrous oxide, turns it into like a meringue. Amazing theatre. And I said, do you mind if I take some photos? Absolutely. He said, take as many photos as you like. And looking around the restaurant, I would say almost every single person took a photo of almost every single dish. I walked out of that restaurant with about 100 photos. Sarah had about the same. And just looking around, absolutely everyone had their phone on the table, and as soon as their dish came out, they were like, oh my God, take a photo of this. And it was just, because it was such theatre, I mean, what marketing do they need to do other than have raving fans going out saying, well, I'm now doing a podcast about it. I must have told 40 people about how amazing this experience was. It's not a nice meal. It's a fantastic experience. It's 5 hours of food theatre whereby, I didn't have a clue what I was eating half the time. Heston just plays with your mind. But you leave with such an amazing experience. Now, even down to the very last thing, okay? We walked out of there with a goodie bag, like a expensive, like we've been to some boutique shopping. We walked out with like some cereal boxes, which of course tasted of all-day breakfast cereal. You've never had cereal until you've had bacon and sausage and fried tomato flavoured cereal. Fantastic. But we walked out with stuff like that, chocolates, a copy of the menu, absolutely, we walked out with this bag, and even down to things like paying. So you pay up front for your ticket. This is, I did a Lamo Live about this back in February when I first tried to book it, and so I want to get a massively oversubscribed business. You have to book, they open up the tables 5 months in advance on the second Wednesday of every month. So on the second Wednesday of December, they will open up May's slots, and by 12:10, they'll have all gone. 80 per day for the entire day of May will go in 10 minutes. But down to paying. So you pay in advance for your ticket, non-refundable, and then on the day, of course, you then pay for your drinks and your tip, your service charge. Which, of course, you then end up spending a little bit more on drink. Well, we didn't, because neither of us were drinking. But certainly the table next to us, they spent some money on drink. Yeah. But you would do, because they probably spent on the day, I don't know, probably spent 600 or 700 quid on drink. There was a table of 6 of them.
Right.
But they probably wouldn't have spent that much if they'd also had to pay for the meal on that same day. But because they'd already paid for it 5 months earlier, we went there and we spent 80 quid, which was basically our tip and a couple of drinks. So, we feel that we had a cheap day out. Nice meal at Heston's costed 80 quid. Yeah. The fact we'd already spent 600 quid, 5 months earlier is irrelevant. But, right, so they bring over the bill. The bill comes in a fantastic leather-bound presentation case, on fantastic paper. So I mentioned this last week, and my friend Tom said, you must mention this on the podcast, he said, because how incongruent with the whole experience would it be if at the very end of the meal they go, right, there you go, thank you very much for that, that's 80 quid, and they give it to you on some flimsy bit of till roll. He said it just wouldn't be congruent. Whereas he said even the paper is like the best paper you've ever had. Just the receipt is printed on better paper than like Basil and Bond ever sewed,
Basil and Bond.
Do you remember Basil and Bond? No. Oh dear. But yeah, so the chip and pin machine is hidden. So the lady comes over and she brings a book with her. I was like, what on earth is this book? And she lays this book down, opens the front cover of the book. What do you know? It's not a book. It's a fake book which contains a chip and pin machine. But again, that bringing out, I think, is not congruent with the theatre of that restaurant. So if you do get a chance to go, it is just an amazing experience. But if you can, just think about what could you actually put into your business that is going to really, really, those little things, the personalisation, the choreography, the attention to detail that Heston's put in there, even when things go wrong. I was amazed. Things went wrong 3 times that I saw when I was there. So, what was it? Right, there's a glass tube which has a bonsai tree in it, and there's nitrous oxide in it, and it creates smoke all over the thing. When they put it down on one of the tables, the glass smashed on it. Another time, there was actually the table next to us with the very, very drunk people who spent a lot of money on wine. They managed to spill some wine. And the table next to us, there's a cup of, they're presented with a cup of tea, which is hot on one side and cold on the other. And obviously, if you don't line it up properly, you don't get the hot on one side, cold on the other. So they, for some reason, it hadn't left the kitchen correctly, or it was laid down by the waiter incorrectly. And so they had, this is just all cold. And then it's hot on top, and it just wasn't right. So those are 3 things that went wrong. So the glass smashed. We heard the glass smash. Oh my God, the glass is smashed. 5 seconds later, that table disappeared. Everyone on that table went somewhere.
To the floor?
No, they all went somewhere. I've no idea where they went.
Oh, right.
And I would say 2 minutes later, that entire table was clear of all the cutlery, it was clear of the glass, it was clear of the tablecloth, and everything was as good as new. And about 60 seconds later, those people were sat back at their newly created table. The same thing happened with the glass of wine. The glass of wine was spilled. Oh my God, I spilled wine. Literally, I don't know whether the entire restaurant mobilised, but within, again, 2 minutes, all those customers disappeared. Now, I don't know where they went because it's quite a small restaurant. There's a table of 6 people there. And just, oh my God, they spilled some wine. Oh my God, And then you'll see people running around now, so like, where have they gone? There must be like a holding room somewhere that they have just for when this happens. That rather than, sorry, mate, sorry we spilled some wine here, let me just mop that up for you a little bit. It's, come with me, sir. They're probably sat there on a leather sofa having a complimentary drink, and they've probably got, I don't know, a tour of the kitchens or something like that. But they will have a process for when things go wrong, everyone springs into action. We fix the problem. We actually give them a better experience. And it's just amazing to see them actually doing that. And the couple, yes, the one that had the tea, they didn't pay for any of the drinks. They didn't know they weren't going to pay for any of their drinks. They asked for the bill, and the waiter came and said, "I'm sorry, sir, I won't be giving you a bill today because on your third course, your tea wasn't presented to you the right way round. So all the wine you've had today, all the aperitifs, all the vodka and tonic you've had, that's all on us." You went, oh, thank you very much. And they didn't ask for that; they weren't expecting that, but they want them leaving with a good experience. They don't want them leaving thinking, "Oh, yeah, how was Fat Duck?" Yeah, it was all right. We had a bit of an issue with the drink, but other than that, it was all right. Instead, they went, "Oh my god, it was amazing." I mean, yeah, all right, we had one issue with that, but do you know what they did? They give us like all the drinks absolutely free. We didn't pay anything, so they didn't even pay the service charge.
Right.
Literally, they were not presented with a bill, which I thought, instantly that's phenomenal, because that, these guys really do earn their service charges. Most I've ever tipped anyone everywhere. And it's just, but they really do earn their money. Now, the one thing I thought they maybe could do, which could improve my experience, is to not bring me a bill either.
Right.
But to say to me, "Would you like me to charge the card I've got on file?" Oh yes, that'd be great. Cool. You're free to leave whenever you like. Or stay as long as you like. You're free. But it's that, to me, I don't actually like that bit of the meal where you go, "Can I have the bill, please?" Yes, here's the bill. Okay. "I'd like to pay by card, please." Okay, let me go and get the machine. Okay, can you put your card in the machine, please? I won't look at the number whilst you're doing it. Okay, I'll take it away. Right, there you go. There's your receipt. Now you can leave. That bit to me isn't the best experience I could have. The best experience I could have is, there's your final course. You're coming to the end of your journey now. Feel free to stay as long as you like. If you'd like any more drinks or any coffees, we can do that for you. Would you like me to charge the your bill today to the card we've got on file, or would you like to pay by different means? You can have a bill if you want, but I would rather be given the opportunity to say, "Shall I make that easy for you? You've already given me your card details. Would you like me to just charge that?" Cool, because that's done then. By the way, have another coffee, have another drink, stay if you like, or I can get your coats. You're free to leave. You can have that one on me, Heston. That's free.
Sounds amazing. And so kind.
Cool. So Richard says, surely the type of experience depends. I mean, it depends on your clientele, because the cost has to be added to price. Yes, that's a really good point, because
we could spend a lot of time and talk about margins and stuff, couldn't we? Really, and we've done that on previous podcasts, and certainly, it is something which we probably do again, because that's a real strong point of ours, is that when we said about the race to the bottom and making sure you don't squeeze your margins and things like that, actually providing the margin in the first place is what gives you that ability to give people the experience that they're expecting, or that you want to be able to give them. Heston is not competing on price, and nor should. And the minute he starts competing on price is the minute that I don't get a message on my lollipop stick. I don't get a Plymouth Argyle thing in my goodie bag. I don't get a course that's individually designed for me based on a conversation that I had with the waiter 2 weeks earlier, which is, that stuff comes from having margin. And you don't get to be able to write off somebody's drinks bill, for example, because something's gone wrong, because their margin's not there at the moment.
I can't afford to do that.
No.
I've got bills to pay. Yeah, that's a good experience we've had with food and with an experienced type business, but we've had some similar experiences recently which have not been so good, haven't we?
We do, yeah.
Are you going to elaborate on that?
I can't do it without grassing them up. That's the trouble.
Well, no, you don't have to. Look, there's a certain place that you might go, say 23 or 24 times per season, per year.
Per year.
Which, we go along there and we have some food. Well, sometimes we have some food. Depends if they'll serve it to us or not. And we've had some issues this year, haven't we? With various. It's the processes and the systems within the business which
that is absolutely
are preventing the staff from giving a really good opportunity. So Heston has got the margin. He can afford to give a top-notch experience. We are not expecting Heston style experience, but we are expecting decent service.
Yeah.
Service without a sneer.
Yeah. Service that encourages you to spend more is quite good. I think, from my point of view, it's an opportunity which they kind of miss out on every time. They're absolutely splendid at removing glasses off tables. Absolutely, you couldn't fault it. You just put the glass down empty and it's gone. Really good at clearing tables, but actually it'd been nice to have another one, really. And that kind of thing, really. There's ways of doing it, isn't there?
Well, I'd say it's not a great customer experience to go, excuse me, yeah. When you're taking that empty glass away, could I have another drink, please? That's not a great experience for you, but it's also a really bad experience for the business who has the opportunity to sell you another drink and has just completely ignored that opportunity.
Yep.
That may not be the highest margin that they're going to make that day, but they are leaving money on the table. They're not leaving the glass on the table, but they are leaving money on the table.
They are definitely leaving the money on the table.
I think we've had some issues with. Well, we've had service issues, haven't we? Which I think comes from, again, the margin isn't great, so perhaps they're employing, dare I say, cheap people.
Yeah, you can say that.
I think a lot of them, this isn't a restaurant, they're not open. Heston's open twice a day, 7 days a week, or certainly 6 days a week. This place is open for 3 hours every other week. So it's going to be agency staff. They are not tied to this one place in terms of they've got no loyalty to them. There's no reason for them to work hard or to provide us with a fantastic service because we've paid it up front, so we're not going to tip them. There's very little incentive for them to actually
provide a service.
To please us, really.
Well, other than the fact that the only thing they have actually got to do is extract money on drinks or other kind of things that they could sell on that particular time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That is what they're kind of relying on, really, because everybody's prepaid. So, they're not going to be taking any money off food or anything like that. So it is a case of actually the only thing you can do is squeezing more money out of you is to provide a service which enables you to do that.
Yeah.
Let alone feed them the food that they're expecting in a timely fashion.
Yeah, they really,
in the right order.
They really do sugar out. Again, that is the processes and the systems that are going wrong when we're sat there and it's a 3-course meal, so you expect you're served a starter and how should the system work? So the waitress comes along and she's looking after say 4 or 5 different tables, and she can glance at your table and see, right, you have got your dessert cutlery here. You've got your main cutlery here. You've got your starter cutlery there. That means you haven't had a starter. You need a starter. Boom. Starter goes down. Oh, you've got an empty starter plate. That needs taking away. Boom. Oh, look. You've now got a clear plate, a clear space for your plate, and your starter cutlery's gone, but your main cutlery's there. You need a main course. Right. Boom. Main course. Oh, look. Your main course dish is empty. That needs taking away. Oh, look. You've only got your dessert cutlery left. That means you need a dessert. Boom. Down it goes. That is how the system should work.
Yeah.
What instead happens is you've got random staff walking up and down the aisles with food, and people going, excuse me, yeah, we need a main here, and they need a starter. They're still waiting for their dessert. This person, you arrived after 2 o'clock. You can't have a starter. But it's the whole system is chasing people down with food, and it's just, to me, there's a simple way of actually doing that so that everyone gets the food, everyone's happy with the food, and let's say take the glasses away. It's a natural thing, right? When you take someone's glass away, ask if they'd like another one. That is a process. All you need to do is make sure that process happens, and it happens every time. We've had it before where you said to someone, "Could I possibly have another drink, please?" I'll see if
I'll find somebody who's going to give you the drinks. I don't do drinks or something like that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. But it can be done.
It's customer-led service as opposed to staff-led service. That's the bottom line.
I think
the customers are wanting.
We've covered what you can achieve, i.e. what is the absolute pinnacle of choreographed service, where every little thing has been thought about, from where the chip and pin machine is to how the lights work, to how the chairs swivel, to how your how your waiter addresses you and everything like that, to what basic basic expectations in a business whereby you're not making the huge margins that Heston is, but you could still actually, you are leaving money on the table and you are creating a bad experience for your customers. Is that fair?
That's very fair. And also, I mean, they're very good, don't get me wrong. They do ask every time, how was your meal? How was your thing? Is there any tips or tricks you want to kind of give us? And every week we kind of enthrall them with some ideas and enthrall them with what's not worked well and what has worked well and things that could possibly be done to make it work better for the next time. Every week we have this, and we get
we get the answer of, we don't do it like that. It doesn't work like that. No, we don't do it like that because we do it like this. You doing it like that is the cause of the problem.
Listen to the feedback.
That I think is again the issues. They are soliciting feedback, which is great. But I think their feedback tends to be, "Did you like the food?" And it's like our issue certainly is not that we didn't like the food. It's kind of,
well, it was a little bit tepid at times, but that's as good as it.
But it's about process. It's about the main concern and complaint that people have about the food is that it's cold. Well, that's an issue. That is a process. There's a reason it's cold. It's because the time it took to leave the kitchen and arrive at my table is too long.
Because it went to 2 other tables before that, and then back to the kitchen and then out again. I know why.
It's done some miles.
My last mains was that reason. I know. I watched it happen. Here's your mains. It was like, I haven't had a starter yet. Oh, hang on a second. Took the main back, came back. No, sorry, you can't have a starter. It's after time. Here's your mains. Oh dear, never mind. All good stuff.
So on that note, guys, I hope you enjoy your Christmas meal. I hope it's not too cold for you, and you don't suffer food poisoning. And if you do, I'm sorry you ate at my house over the week. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine because I'm cooking this year, so it'll be all right.
Excellent.
Cool. Have a really, really good Christmas, guys. It seems really weird to be saying this already because we are recording this just after Black Friday. But hey, have a Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas.
For those of us who love their Americanisms, Happy Holidays, guys.
Oh,
and
sorry, Richard.
We'll see you in 2018.
Yes.
Adios. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.